Okay, great. So my phone's playing games again. Unbelievable. Verses 15 and 16. He who forms the hearts of all, who considers everything they do. I like that part. It says, he who forms the hearts of all. And it says, no king is saved by the size of his army. No warrior escapes by his great strength. Verse 20. We wait and hope for the Lord. He is our help and our shield. And verse 18 is the last one. But the eyes of the Lord are on those who fear him, on those whose hope is in his unfailing love, to deliver them from death and keep them alive in famine. What? I like that. Deliver them from death and keep them alive in famine. I love that. So good for today. First question. Do you believe that God controls even the plans of the nations? I believe God controls everything. But honestly, like, it's a tough question because I think it brings in that word. I think it's predestination, pre-something. If God is in control, then, like, are we just like robots? Like, do we just do what he says, But I don't agree with that because God's given us free will because he doesn't want us to be robots. He created us because he wanted us, and gave us free will because he wanted us to choose to love him, not that he controlled us to love him, and I actually looked up the definition of control, and it says, because, like, I guess a lot of people think if you say God controls everything, like God is like using us like robots. Like that's the best definition that I can give. But actually the definition of control is the power to influence or direct people's behavior or course of events. So it's not like you're like a little puppet on a string and I say jump and you jump. You know what I'm saying? It's not like that. It's just saying that he has the power to influence or direct people's behavior or course of events. And I looked up the synonyms of the word control, and this is what I loved. It says authority, because he has all authority. Guidance, he guides us. What? Inside track. My goodness, there's no one else that has that but him. You know what I'm saying? And then the other word was supervision. What? He is like the best supervisor we could ever have. And if you actually have a good supervisor, they're there to watch over you, and they're not telling you what to do, but they're just there to watch over you and kind of guide you, and if you go off, a way that you shouldn't go, they're going to push you back, you know what I'm saying? But they're going to do it in love if they're a great supervisor. So, yes, God is in control, and he can be in control as far as I'm concerned, because I screw things up, even when I try my best, and I think something is good and think it's the best thing to do, I'm wrong. The second question is, does that comfort you? And I put, yes, it should. But when I'm going through stuff, when I'm going through bad times, when I'm going through pain, I'm not going to sit there and always be like, I sit there and the first thing I think is, yes, God is in control. He works all things, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, for my good. No, I don't sit there and say that all the time. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, So should it comfort us that God's in control? Yes, it should comfort us. You know what I'm saying? Because he's got everything. He's got the whole world in his hands. Sorry, that just came to me. But he does. I mean, literally he does. It's going to be his plan and his purpose that's going to prevail over anything that anybody does or says. Last question. In what would an outside observer conclude, I hate certain words, that you place your hope? Horses or the Lord? And I talked about horses yesterday. So the reason why they said that is because that's what they had back then, and they used a lot in fighting and war. And the verse 17 of Psalm 33 says this: a horse is a vain hope for deliverance. Despite all its great strength, it cannot save. What? So this is what I put to answer to the question. I just wanted to read that verse because that's kind of how the question came up, because you're probably like, where's horses coming from? But it depends upon when they are looking, I said, when someone is looking at my life, because sometimes it could be horses that I place my hope in, and horses is not necessarily like a horse. It could be money, it could be people, it could be jobs, it could be things, it could be whatever. Whatever you want to consider a horse in your life, it could be those things. Or I said sometimes it could be the horses, or sometimes it's God. But I said I would like to say overall that it's God. Like if you looked at the whole picture of my life, like it's God, you know, because I'll go through trials, tribulations, pain, suffering, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes I do good, sometimes I don't do so good, you know, and I'm like, hey God, where are you, you know, and I feel like I'm losing my mind, you know, because I feel like the God, you know, the God of everything, the God of all is not there for me, you know, and that's not true, because we as humans like to think, because we go through pain and suffering, that God's not there, because we have this theory in our head that if we go through bad times, or what we consider bad times, things where we suffer, things where that cause us pain, then we think God's not there for us, because we have this theory that, you know, if God is so good, why would he allow suffering? And it's stupid. Like, and I'm just really realizing that, and like in the last couple of years, like that is like the most stupidest theory, I think, of all theories. I mean, really it is. That doesn't mean God doesn't love us. It doesn't mean God's not great. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't, you know? What? There's a purpose for all pain. There's a purpose for all suffering. Yeah, I don't know why I'm going there, but anyways, because I'm a huge believer in that now. Not saying that whatever comes next, because it always gets more and more intense, that I'm going to not cave, or not whatever, I don't know, whatever, you know, feel like God's not there for me. So when it was talking about the horse and it not having strength, and you know, I was thinking of something can be so big in our lives, you know, and it doesn't have strength. Things can be big, and doesn't, just because it's big does not mean it has strength. You know what I'm saying? Because the things I thought of were two things in the Bible, and that's David and Goliath. Goliath was ginormous, and I told you I was going to start focusing on David and reading more and trying to learn more about David, because I want to figure out if he's got an ego or if he's confident. So when I was reading, it said that Goliath was over 9 feet tall. I can't even imagine, right? Like if you think of the tallest basketball player, like I don't think there's anybody 9 feet tall, right? But it wasn't his size. You know, I don't know, I don't remember if it said how big he was, but that's how tall it said he was over 9 feet tall. So, just because you're big doesn't mean you're gonna win. You know what I'm saying? Or just because you're big doesn't mean you have strength. You know what I'm saying? Because David, the way they describe David, you know, is obviously he wasn't over 9 feet tall. So that means he was smaller than Goliath. So just because something is big doesn't mean it's gonna win. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not necessarily the strength that you have that helps you to win things. It's the I think a lot has to do with the intellect and mind and strategy, you know what I'm saying? And most definitely the hugest favorite thing that you have over strength is God. If you have God on your side, you can win anything, you know what I'm saying? And the other thing I thought of was Samson and Delilah. What? Samson was a big bad boy, right? But a woman, not to put women down or not anything like that, or to put men down, but a woman, you know, overtook his strength, I'll say, because it wasn't that she